the Drone Champions League, the World Championship of Professional Drone Racing Teams. Welcome, I'm Matt Andrews. We're here for race day 6 with the 7 best drone racing teams in the world. There's only one more race day to come after this before our split 3 finals, so 2 matchups today and they're very, very valuable. Raiden Racing from Japan. They're here with IQ0, Valprim, Vicen Mayan and Batu, and they need to carry on fighting for points. They're up against their American rivals of Quad Force 1. Their same unchanged roster again, Propsicle, Hyper, QTFPV and Shane. In matchup 2, the Wildcard team will continue to show the other teams what they can do. It's Flo Jelly, West, Chugakva and Bambi showcasing their skills, but they've got the reigning split champion Cyclone Racing to battle against. Neon is back on the roster with Zion, J-Box and the Ice Cheetah for his first time in split 3 so far. After 5 race days of the 7 in Split 3, you can see Quad Force 1 and Cyclone tied at the top. Raiden going up against Quad Force 1 is their chance to get back on top of the leaderboard. To do so, there'll be 3 races that they need to score points from. The first one has 2 pilots from each team race each other, then the other 2 from each team battle. Then all 8 pilots race in the DCL Big Heat. For those 4 heat points you get for a win, 3 if you're second, 2 if you're third, 1 point if you come in 4th. After the 3 races have flown, we'll add up the points, and the team with the most gets 3 towards season, 1 if it's a draw. At this very late stage, nobody wants 0. And our track is a return to Yas Marina, the legendary Formula 1 circuit. This is where we flew for real back in the earlier parts of 2024 at our Split 1 finals. Now virtually, we're on turn 12 of the tarmac into this waffle with a ladder up. Then a difficult split S into a slalom. Stay down the bottom of the gates before you do a ladder around here and a corkscrew over the top. Then 6 more in a different arrangement. It's a split S down, stay low again with a left-right slalom, laddering your way out through the other 2 gates, and then the W Hotel. This incredible location that straddles the Formula 1 track, down through that dive gate, around the bridge here for a slalom, and then duck under it on another very long kind of corkscrew turn before Yas Marina awaits us. Try not to get wet and try not to wreck any very expensive yachts. Left-hand turn around this one before 7 A2RL gates, and they're in a very long, quite stretched out, sort of curving tunnel here as you see. This is the 6th one, the 7th one is Harbourside. A left-hand turn, very narrow gap there on that balcony before a hard turn through DCL gates afterwards. The 3 of those. Now here's an example of what pilots will try not to do. There's an overshoot into that waffle slalom at the bottom. There's another slalom out of the top. That's the sort of place where pilots could lose time to some of their more technical rivals. 3 DCL arches here, but watch out for the pylons and the posts as you head into them. You go back through another yacht, and then you head back to the Formula 1 circuit with this fox ear turn, that split S over the top, through this gate into a corkscrew with these 2 fox ear gates, a much bigger, chunkier corkscrew around this bridge. Now the waffles return. 6 gates coming up, a split S through the top and back again through the bottom one. Stay down, right and left. Then a ladder around through the top corner and a hard 180 left-hand turn to come out of it. This one's easier, a split S through those 2 and then another 180 turn. And now our pilots go where no Formula 1 driver wants to, as they're well wide of the racing line on the tarmac, but this is our racing line with a bit of verticality. Climb up through that ring, split S on this DCL gate, then we go around 3 times in total. And let's go racing. Raiden Racing against Quad Force 1. It's Vicen Mayan and Batu against Shane and QTFPV. Race day 6 underway, and this will be interesting as Quad Force 1 took part in race day 5 on this track, whereas Raiden's pilots were on a bye week. It was the rest week for the team, so we haven't seen them attack this one yet, and Batu is a little bit further behind very early on in the first routes through these waffles. We're on board with his teammate, Vicen Mayan, the legend of Raiden Racing, who's between Shane and QTFPV for Quad Force 1. Ducking under the bridge there for the first time. Shane, by about half a second, in front of Vicen Mayan as they go over Yas Marina and turn into these A2RL gates. And we had a couple of pilots, particularly on Quad Force 1, struggle and just bump into a couple of these gates, which is comparatively the simplest part of this track. Here's Shane, turning nicely into these 4 gates of the waffle. That shows you how quickly you take it when you're flying at real professional speed. He goes a little to the right there before that left-hand turn. Whereas Vicen Miami was a little bit more straight down the middle. Shane clearly wanted to take a wider route towards that last part where you go through the extra yacht. Shane still ahead of Vicen Miami and about 3/4 of a second now. Then it's a few seconds in total before QTFPV, and Bartu is not far behind him. Might be a bit of a close race going on for third and fourth, but out in front, Vicen trying to hang on to Shane. He did lose a few tenths of a second earlier when he overshot one of the turns around the Foxeer section, but he's back in contention, having flown very aggressively since then. Shane leads him into the 8 gates of the waffle, and Shane just bounces off the middle section, and Vicen has caught him. Not quite past him yet, but a bit of a shock for Shane, as he hasn't got that quite so smoothly as maybe he expected. Got to shake any doubts out of his mind now, as Vicen Miami just flashes across his vision. Right behind him by 1/10 of a second. Here come the yachts. Shane a bit more daring this time. Squeezing through one of the smaller gaps. We go on board with Vicen Miami, as you can see, just 200ths or so behind Shane, and battling and trying to take him on the corners. A different route through the balcony. Bowled by Vicen gives him the lead, but by a fraction, maybe 1/10 of a second, but this is where he might start to get away. Shane capable of hanging on to him, but not many pilots can beat Vicen at the finish. Now we see Shane's view. That's what it looks like, with a brilliant pilot from Spain flying for Raiden, really closely in front of you. It's less than 1/10 of a second. The corkscrewing is good for Shane and good for Vicen, and now they're both weaving through here, and that's where Vicen lost some time on the first lap, but not this time around. Shane pushes through that turn. Vicen might be surprised to see him in front of him as he gets on the inside. These are two brilliant competitors battling, and we've got one more lap to enjoy. Vicen down through the split S, goes a little bit lower afterwards. Shane still in front of him every time they've made it to here now. Shane is weaving, Vicen just a little bit deeper on one of the turns. Just a tiny overshoot at the top means he's now got about 4/10 to catch up between himself and the leader at the moment, who's Shane. There's the slalom over the bridge. The dive, not bad for Mayan. I think a little bit of a hesitation. It's not helped him close the gap. They now move to the second yacht on the turn here, and Vicen now going through these gates. And there's not a lot you can do to catch the drone that's in front of you other than pick your line and get ready for the next part. This difficult route here and down, and that is so good from Vicen. And he had the lead momentarily, and he's trying to get it back again. He and Shane less than 1/10 again. This is where Mayans was in the lead on lap number 2. He's back in the lead on lap number 3, but by a smaller margin than he was. He leads through the Foxeer section. Shane trying to go onside him. 0.004 of a second between the pilots. We absolutely love how close drone racing can be. Out of this waffle, could it be Vicen coming out of it? Ahead of Shane. Shane goes higher through this slalom as he did last time. Vicen now going on the climb. It's looking like he can keep it. This split has to go. And to the finish it is Vicen Miami of Raiden, hanging on for that win over Shane by almost 0.3 of a second. Shane will surely feel a bit hard done by there as Vicen gets a win. Just so close throughout and in front when it mattered. Here's his teammate Bartu, just clips that first gate. That's what sent him so far behind the action early in the race. But he did manage to fight back up into third past QTFPV. Here's Shane giving Vicen that chance to catch him. Just that little bump in the middle. And here Vicen was trying to get away. He is the best finisher in the DCL, but I don't know if he had the speed to catch Shane without Shane just making that little mistake and giving him a chance on lap number 2. And here surely Shane was thinking, no! Instead, now Valprim and IQ0 will try and push a little further ahead, but Propsicle and Hyper, well, they are absolutely deadly for Quad Force 1. Propsicle's the only member of the American team to have won a race around this track, and when he did so, Hyper was in second behind him, and that was against SDT last time. So, we already know you've got to be scared of Propsicle at all times, but Hyper, letting both of the Raiden pilots past him after crashing in the middle of that 6-gate waffle. We saw a few mistakes from Hyper when they raced SDT on this track. He was one of the pilots who got caught out on the A2RL long curving route. That's coming up now. Valprim chasing Propsicle. About 0.15 of a second between the two of them. They swing up for the balcony, and down on the other side, Valprim is caught out. That's that blind split S back through. Propsicle gets away. He's now heading towards the arches and across by the pylon and hits one of those. It's the posts I thought pilots would have to watch out for, as they might see the yellow ones coming, but no, Propsicle, very unlike him, hitting one of our pylons just absolutely square on, and doing so has cost him the lead. Now he gets it back again, just swings in front of Valprim. These pilots are going to be very, very tight, and we're only on the first lap. We might be getting another incredible battle between Raiden and Quad Force 1 here. Propsicle goes a little bit higher there like Shane did in the last race. Valprim stayed low and then climbed up like Vicen did. We start lap number 2. These two pilots with only a few tenths between them. Propsicle back in the lead. Valprim back in the chase. Hyper's in third, having caught and passed IQ0 at the back. And there is Propsicle, threading those gates like it's just one long looping one. And Valprim is nowhere near as smooth in the middle of that. He's lost a lot of time, and Hyper is right on his tail. Valprim is about to get a shock, as he's not only going to be looking at Propsicle getting away from him, but he might just be seeing now Hyper in his peripheral vision starting to move past. There's the one American drone of Propsicle. Valprim is barely a tenth between him and another one. He's got to do this turn better. It's very difficult, and he'll now see Hyper do it better and get away. Propsicle here needs to give these pylons a little more room. That's the one that claimed him, but he didn't give it very much room at all. Through the yacht, and he tries to stretch away. 1.2 seconds between him and this pilot Hyper, who sees Valprim trying to go back into second. Around the big chunky corkscrew, and now heading to these 6 gates here. Propsicle out of this nicely. All the other 3 pilots in it at the same time. Valprim closed that gap by about half. Propsicle has let them get nearer to him. Valprim's view here is lower on that ring and left, and then a swinging turn out of the split S to start the third and final lap. Different routes. We've seen it from a few different pilots. Now Propsicle in for the ladder at the waffle, bit deep on it, catches the middle there between the top 2 centre gates. Valprim's past him, Hyper's past him, Propsicle's gone all wrong, and Hyper has gone to pieces around here. Wow, the second set of waffles absolutely nailed them. Valprim is away with over a second between him and Propsicle after his crash, managing to recover and get past Hyper, who was so much slower, finding his way out of where he got tangled up. Hyper still not caught by IQ0 though, as that pilot for Raiden is a long way back, and he's had every opportunity now to catch Quad Force 1. Valprim is getting on with it. Can't afford to let this valuable win, and the 4 points for it slip from Raiden, and Propsicle, talking of slipping, has slipped further behind. Now there's a big gap between him and Valprim has barely put a prop wrong all the way around here. Surely Quad Force 1 are going to be looking at this as a win and a second place lost. They won't catch Valprim now. He's almost infallible, this young pilot for Raiden. Propsicle, the fight has gone. Valprim is home with the win. The best that Quad Force 1 can take out of this is that their second and third place effectively cancels out Raiden's first and fourth. Wow. Half a second between Propsicle and Hyper, and 2 seconds behind him was IQ0, so a good bit of catching up from him at the end. But young Valprim, so good on every track we give him. Hyper just staggering around that on lap number 1. A little bit later after the harbour, Valprim bumps into this, but it is a blind split S. You don't see it coming. Propsicle hitting that turn is a surprise. As I said, I thought the black poles might be the ones that catch people out, but I think every racer in this, including Valprim and Hyper and IQ0, attacked it, knowing everybody else is so good. Propsicle hits the middle of that there. If he hadn't done that, would Valprim have caught him? Well, we'll never know. What we do know is after the bump in lap number 1, Hyper is just done for here on lap number 3. Those waffles, they are tricky, but remember, Raiden haven't raced on this track until this matchup, whereas Quad Force 1 raced it in the previous race day. Raiden go into this with a 2-point lead over Quad Force 1, but it's the DCL Big Heat, all 8 pilots, 10 points available. So many of these pilots capable of winning it. Okay, Shane is into the 8 gates first. Valprim is chewing up through them brilliantly and still behind Shane. At the exit of it, here's the 6 gates. Hyper with a problem in the first set of waffles. Shane and Propsicle just behind Valprim and Vicen Mayan out of the second group. And this race is splitting quickly into 2 packs of 4. as there are 2 seconds between the first 4 pilots who are going to score the points and the others at the moment. It's Mayan in the lead, just ahead of his teammate Valprim by almost 2/10. Here's where Valprim crashed on the previous run, but he's cleanly through the blind split S, as are Shane and Propsicle, who are swapping places in 3rd and 4th, but not yet swapping places with the Raiden pilots. Through the yacht, Mayan still in the lead. Valprim less than a 10th behind him. Now to the Fox here, corkscrew Vicen hits the first gate at the bottom and bounces out of it upwards. Manages to go through, but he's now a second behind Valprim, his teammate, and Shane is attacking, as you can see. This is where he usually goes up first, and he does. He's high through the slalom. Valprim comes up to the same level. Shane, having lost that first race by such a small margin, he will be desperately trying to not be beaten by a small margin again. We're only on the start of lap number 2. Here's the block trade turn. Valprim's this time into the waffle, and Shane crashing and turning too soon in the first gate, and some more. That's gone to pieces for him. He's lost over 10 seconds and is all the way down at the back. Oh, what a terrible mistake in the first gate of it. And Propsicle hits another pylon. This is one of the clear vision ones on top of the bridge. What's going on for Quad Force 1? Propsicle here. If anything, a little bit too wide on the pylon turns that were coming up. He looked like he was a little bit worried about them and gave them a huge amount of room. He's now nearly 5 seconds behind the leader, who's Valprim. And Vicen, he's about 3 seconds behind his teammate. The pilots in this race are being caused so many problems by the longest and maybe the most difficult track we've ever had. Here's Valprim into the corkscrew. That's where Vicen bounced last time. This time Vicen is cleanly through it and trying to stay with his teammate. It's now less than 3 seconds between the two. But Valprim suddenly pulls away a little bit more, and Vicen has to do his very best around the corkscrews just to stay with his teammate. Propsicle is nowhere near the 2 pilots from Raiden. Hyper made a mistake on the first run into the big waffle, but has managed to fight from there back up into 4th. And a race which had 2 big groups of pilots at the beginning, then merged back together, and now they've separated again. Surely with 1 lap to go, your winner is going to be Raiden's Valprim or Vicen Mayan, unless something really bad happens to them. And Propsicle and Hyper, you never ever count those out, but there's a lot for them to do. Of course, Valprim has crashed in a couple of different places on this track. Vicen in different places to Valprim. Everybody's had problems at one part or another, but not always the same place. So, hold tight. There's a little over half a lap to go. Valprim's the first one to complete that route across the harbour. He now comes to these 4 gates here. Slalom through the bottom, slalom through the top, and he's on his way. Vicen is out of here too. He's about 5 seconds behind his teammates, and Hyper and Propsicle have slipped further back. This is looking like a really strong performance for Valprim in particular. And remember, Raiden are 2 points ahead of Quad Force 1 going into this big heat. And they're about to really outscore the American team. Oh, Valprim nearly gave it away. But the gaps are big enough. They don't need to be taking any crazy risks. And even if they do get a little bit of a bounce, surely there's no danger. Here's Valprim for 4 points in the lead. Vicen comes in 2.7 behind him. Hyper puts on a bit of a charge and finishes in 3rd. We don't usually have to wait long for Propsicle, but he's only just made it in 4th. There's IQ0. Bartu completing it for Raiden. Here's Shane. He'll be gutted with his performance in that one, and QTFPV limps home behind him. Valprim and Vicen, the 1-2. 7 points for them. Hyper and Propsicle just about scraping in for 3rd and 4th. Another brilliant performance by Valprim. Here's Vicen Mayan bouncing off of the corkscrew, which is what ruined his challenge for the lead. Shane getting caught in his first gate after turning too tightly. Then he crashes into the second and is looking to hold things side on. After the W Hotel, watch Propsicle comes down a little bit high. I'm not quite sure how he messed up his approach into that pylon, but that sent him a little bit too far behind. Valprim wins it out. Congratulations to Raiden Racing. It's always a great contest between them and Quad Force 1. Raiden win out this one with 18 points to 12. Time for our second matchup of race day 6. It's the Wildcard team who have Chugakva and West. They're going against Cyclone Racing, but for this race, it's just J-Box. Neon was meant to be racing alongside him, but he couldn't take part. However, he will be coming up in the big heat in 2 races' time. We're into the waffle the first time. J-Box quickly through it, but a little lost at the top. Got to go back and finish that second gate. He went past it, whereas he should have turned sharply through it, but he's turning very sharply in the second set of waffles, and West suddenly found himself in the lead and then found himself back in second place. J-Box charging towards the yachts. West very close, about a quarter of a second between the two of those. Chugakva lagging a bit behind, starting to slip and slip some more. West now pursuing J-Box to this blind turn and goes through and is passing J-Box, although J-Box swings back across him. And there's the 4 gates, but the 4th one is the one that stops West. Oh no! After you go through the slalom at the bottom, you go up to the top layer and you slalom out of it, and you had it all done except for the exit of one of the gates. So now West is about 3/4 of a second behind J-Box. Pursuing him, and it's a little bit shaky, as you can see, and that's what's happened. A bit shaky even on just the approach to that. Just some adjustments going on. Didn't feel happy maybe with his line, or was thinking about the gate that was coming afterwards. He's 5 seconds behind J-Box as they head on to lap number 2. And that thinking ahead is a very tricky skill to get right, because the best pilots in the world are pre-turning gates. They are going through a gate, sometimes with no visibility of it whatsoever, because they are already lining up for how they're going to approach and zip through the next gate. And that's what you have to do at the highest end of racing. West, though, is just adjusting and fighting with his drone all the time to get through that waffle and has lost a few more seconds on J-Box. So you do need to think ahead. You do need to line up for what's coming ahead. Beginner pilots will typically go through a gate and then turn, and that's how they often overshoot. Corners will go completely through this gate and then look and turn for the next one. You have to thread those together in order to fly quickly. But of course, if you spend too much time thinking about the gate after the one you're on, then you might mess up the one you're on. And we've seen a little bit of that so far. West quick though. Definitely quicker than J-Box at times. J-Box, I think, playing it a little safely. His team, Cyclone Racing, are very good at communicating during races. The other team members, or their manager and captain, Breton, will be telling the team, okay, guys, you've got well, in this case, nearly a 10-second lead, so don't throw it away. West now, straight approach through the ring. We'll have just seen J-Box moving to the right, so he knows he's nowhere close to him just yet, but J-Box hitting that block trade gate is just giving him a chance. Oh, and now J-Box needs to thread that very nicely, and he does. West, unfortunately, you can see he's not threading it cleanly or smoothly, bumping around. He goes into the second set, split S, left, right, and then turns left and goes through the gates at the top. Managed to go through them, but that is supposed to be a right-hand turn to send you up to the top. He sort of went the long turn round. Instead of turning right 180 degrees, he almost had to go left about 270 and then an adjustment. Maybe just got confused, maybe decided to try something new. J-Box is well out of this tunnel, but all over the deck here on the Marina side. Let's watch him now. He makes that turn so sharply like Propskull did earlier, but Propskull hit that pylon. Now we see West. He's lower. He looks like he's quicker. As you can see, it's daring. He's picking a line. He's going quickly through the boat, but then there's a little recovery afterwards as he wasn't quite lined up for the gate he needed to be heading towards next. He's flying quickly and he's flying well. It's just unfortunately he's against the best team in the DCL at the moment, and J-Box for that team has gone the wrong side of the slalom. I've never seen J-Box give another team so many chances, albeit accidentally, to catch him. J-Box is going to put that home and just leave that race, and it's done. 4.6 seconds at the end was how far West was behind J-Box, and his teammate Chugakva nearly 10 seconds behind him. J-Box wins it, but not in a tidy way. Let's see some of this untidiness. J-Box will overshoot here, but West goes past him, and then watch West in the next obstacle. At the bottom left, he'll go left, whereas J-Box turns right. That's J-Box doing the traditional route through a ladder. It's generally a continuous turn in one direction, and you either then go up through a gate above the one you flew, or sometimes downwards through a gate underneath the one you threw, but in the same direction. West did it on lap 2. He also did it again on lap number 3. Watch as he comes out. He'll go left, right, and then left, and look for that top middle gate. So there's a good spot for West to improve. J-Box, still very, very difficult to catch. So are Zion and the Ice Cheetah, and Flo, Chelly and Bambi are the wildcard pilots who are going to give it a go. Zion was Rookie of the Year in 2023, which was Cyclone's first year in the DCL, believe it or not. What an incredible 2 years that team has had. Zion is caught in the middle of the waffle. The Ice Cheetah's passed him. Bambi is very close to him. And Flo Chelly is not too far behind, but slipping some more early on. The Ice Cheetah just trying to dive inside his teammate Zion, and does so. They're side by side now as they come towards the yachts. Ice Cheetah just looking a little slower there. Zion still with him. Nobody needing to do anything crazy here early on in lap number 1. Bambi, just a gate or 2 behind. Flo Chelly far too far back. Zion making mistakes out of the water, coming out of the harbour on those A2RL gates that I said, although it's a long sweeping curve with a lot of time in between each one, nevertheless, pilots are getting caught out by it. Bambi was in front of him for a while, but now Zion is back up into second, and the Ice Cheetah is all on his own. Probably feeling a little bit lonely out in front, as some Formula 1 drivers sometimes do, when they're starting just to get away from the other competitors. This is around turns 10 and 11, by the way, if you know the Formula 1 circuit, and then ahead of them is turn 12. Only the drivers would go right, the pilots, we make them go left and climb. Now goes around, and he's on to lap number 2. Here's Zion, 5 seconds or so, maybe a little bit less now behind him. Zion almost coming out there into a problem with the rings, but is managing to save it from that. And of course, he's got plenty of time to take it a little bit safer if he needs to. The Ice Cheetah will split S, slalom out, and then there's the usual route up and through the middle gate out of a ladder. Here's Zion getting a little bit lost and bumping on his way out as well. That's not like him. Left turn, right turn, and duck underneath that bridge to head towards beautiful Yas Marina. And this is a perfect rendering of the location. We go out and map these places and do an exact 3D replica of them here in DCL the game, which you can get on PlayStation and Xbox and through Steam for PC. Of course, those boats, we would never be able to use those as real-life racing obstacles. I don't think there's many yacht owners who would let us do this. But the Ice Cheetah goes through that nicely, and we get this chance to enjoy this location that we flew at for real, and now we get to do some things that they'd never let us do. Here's another one. I don't think we'll get much permission to hang a gate off the bridge like that. Zion was just gaining a little bit of time on the Ice Cheetah, who's slaloming his way around the outside of turn 12 and going up now for the split S here and going left to get there. Let's see if it works for Zion as well. Watch how closely, yes, as he crosses through that gate. A lap earlier, he went directly, squarely through it, but by taking that left-hand turn towards it, he had a much tighter run and could go through that gate practically side on. The Ice Cheetah's just gone back to finish the gate. He'd done 7 of them, but he'd forgotten the corkscrew that you have to go back to get the 8th. That's good laddering from Zion. That was tight. That's taken, maybe 2 seconds out of the lead that the Ice Cheetah had over him. And the Ice Cheetah, of course, losing time not just by Zion flying that so well, but also that big overshoot, getting 7 gates flown and then coming back for the last one. Clearly, these waffles are playing tricks on our competitors' minds. There's the blind split S. There's Ice Cheetah heading ahead of him and coming out of the 4 gates a little bit tidier and much quicker as well. He's pulling away from Zion again. Then through this ring and a dive back down to the tarmac into the Foxeer section with a split S, a straight one, and then the corkscrew. There's a pre-turn from Zion. Is he going to do it again? He does, but it doesn't work the second time. There's a good example of pre-turning to be quicker through a gate. But the second one, he had no visibility of it, misjudged his entrance to it, hit it, bounced off. That's cost him a few more seconds. The Ice Cheetah gets a win. Welcome back, Chesley. He's on the roster and picking up a win in Split 3 for Cyclone. Second place was Zion, Bambi and Flo Chelly. They sadly just slipped further and further behind. The Ice Cheetah, his first race in Split 3. That's 1 win out of 1 for Chesley. Here's the first attack through the waffle. It was the 3rd lap at that section that he missed and had to go back for. Zion takes a little dip into the Yas Marina harbour. Managed to pull it back from there, but that's when Bambi got in front of him, but it wasn't long before Zion had passed Bambi again. Zion got a bit tangled up in this waffle, and then we'll see the pre-turn. His first one was good, but that one just hit that gate square on. Didn't bounce through it, had to reline up, and in fact, I think bounced off of the waffle afterwards as well. Never mind for Zion. His teammate got the win, Zion got the second. What happens in the DCL Big Heats? It could be quite chaotic. Cyclone Racing with a 3-point lead. Everybody through the first of the block trade gates. And now into the rings. And here's the split S, which just knocks a pilot every now and then, just back a little. There's good work from the Ice Cheetah. There's the 8th gate, flown wonderfully. And J-Box is managing to stay ahead of him, laddering out of there and getting on with it. Pleased to see that Neon, who couldn't race in the 2v2 earlier, is in second place here in the Big Heat. Let's take a look at his flying. He's a very important pilot for Cyclone. In front of him is the Ice Cheetah, just crossing from right to left as Neon basically went straight down the middle while they're choosing their routes. J-Box has managed to put over 4 seconds between him and everybody else, including his teammates. That looked dangerous, though. It looked like he'd nearly pre-turned and slammed it into that gate. The Ice Cheetah is still in second. Neon in third. Zion is in fourth. And West, Bambi, Chagakva and Flochelli are maybe finding that this circuit is, as one of the hardest ones we've ever had, maybe just too much of a challenge today when you're facing the current best team in the DCL. That's good work from the Ice Cheetah. Zion just flashed a little bit around the corner of him. J-Box is pulling away and going to lap number 2. He'll turn and go more directly through the gate rather than obliquely across it, which is what the Ice Cheetah did to try and make it a bit tighter. And good pre-turning from him too. Here's the rings. Now here's the block trade split S as he goes round it and moves and has gained a little bit on J-Box. Just a little. And is flying really well through those waffles. Clearly been putting the practice in when he's not been racing. J-Box now only 2 seconds ahead of the Ice Cheetah. Going around the bridge under the W Hotel. There's the Ice Cheetah, just a little bit slower on the descent under the bridge. Could have turned and done a more aggressive dive down to gain a little bit more speed and save a little bit more time. The other things he's doing, though, are going very well as that gap between him and J-Box, well, it's a fraction smaller than it was. J-Box, oh, nearly! Looked like he was going to pre-turn and hit that gate as well, but he's keeping it flying and the Ice Cheetah adjusting a little bit. Whether that's the Ice Cheetah's lines not being quite right or whether he's following J-Box, and if J-Box swings a bit wide, then it can affect the Ice Cheetah. That does sometimes happen, and we've had that happen a little bit in Split 3 between various pilots and teams. There we go, in, slaloming out, ladder up, and it's just so clean from the Ice Cheetah, which is why he now is leaving the rest of them behind. Neon can't keep up with him, neither can Zion, and they're the pilots in second and third with 1 lap to go, as J-Box has gone from the lead to 11 seconds behind it, and still in front of all of the Wildcard team. Neon back on the roster, coming in for the waffle. Goes through that, Zion with him, J-Box in there as well, but the Ice Cheetah's already finished with the second set, or has he? No, he's had to go back and redo it. Oh no, the Ice Cheetah made a mess of the second waffle, did the right thing, which is go back and finish those gates. You can't go on without having done them, and sometimes you might fly a gate or two more than maybe you had to when you look back at it. But right then and there in a racing situation, perhaps it's safer to go, right, I'm not sure which gate I missed, I'm going to do this extra one to make sure. His teammates take the lead from him and battle with it. Neon just about scraping through there. That's one of those lucky bounces where you manage to get through. But of course you don't have as much speed afterwards like Zion does. Neon chasing Zion. Dips a little bit early for that Foxear gate. Managed to recover. Is he going to pre-turn as early? No, not really. No turning as he went through the gate, which is the next best thing. Neon goes through the big set of the waffles. There's just his 3 gates to go with a split S and then a left-hand turn. And Neon is surely in an unstoppable position now. He was second behind his teammate Yayu in 2 races earlier this season. He's going to get his first win. Oh, bounces off the finish gate. That does occasionally happen. And J-Box and Zion, as you see in the corner of the screen, celebrating the race they had between the two of themselves. Neon ended up with only a 1 second lead over Zion, and there were only 13 thousandths of a second between Zion and J-Box. So Neon gets his win there after almost bouncing it away at the end. It does happen in the DCL. On lap number 3, the Ice Cheetah will ladder, but he turns left here, goes around the outside and through. You're supposed to turn right like Neon is doing and come out of the top left-hand gate instead. So the Ice Cheetah went left and laddered up when he should have gone right and laddered up. That's what cost him the lead. Neon gets in front of everybody and still has time to finish. Cyclone picked up so many points there, and they even took part in the first race with only 1 pilot, not 2. A big sweep in the big heat means they've got 21 points to 8 past the Wildcard team. Mach 1 still can't make it back into the DCL due to one of their pilots having an injury, which means XDT pick up that default 3-0 win against them. Raiden's win over Quad Force 1 moves them past the American team, but Cyclone jump past both of them as they are the undefeated team on top with 1 race day to go. And those leaders will take on Spain Drone Team, the Wildcard Team and China Dragons fighting between themselves for 5th and 6th. They're going to settle it on race day 7. I'm Matt Andrews. Thanks for watching the DCL. Join us again. We'll see you in the skies.